You are listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 171. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Today on the podcast, we are welcoming Tanya Godwin. Hello, Tanya.
Hello.
Tanya is with Oasis Senior Advisors, and we were having a chat prior to this recording and just talking about aging in general and just helping people get a better 35,000 foot view of the lay of the land. And so I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I've been looking very forward to this.
Me as well. Share a little bit about your background, how you came to work in this industry, helping seniors and their families.
It has been amazing. Uh, it was, I was in the legislature, believe it or not, our state's legislature, for almost 16 years and working on all different subject matters in passing legislation. Kind of thought that that was my thing, like that was going to be my forever home. And my state senator that I was working for was terming out, and I was approached by one of our elder law estate planning firms who asked if I wanted to come on board and do business development for them. And I said, okay, I'm going to step outside my comfort zone. I'm going to go into the private sector. So I did it. It was awesome. It evolved on its own organically into more of like a client coordinator, fancy way of saying I got to develop relationships with the clients and work with them one-on-one. And that is when I realized that this was my demographic. I was sitting across the table from these folks who had lived this rich, full life of, they had experienced all the things that we read about in the history books, right?
Mm.
And I fell madly in love with them. And it was wonderful to just be able to do things that supported them, that affected their lives positively. And it just was a wonderful, rich experience. One day, this beautiful human walked into our office. Her name is Beth Friesen, and she said, I am starting here in Lincoln a business called Oasis Senior Advisors. And I'm going to be providing seniors and their families with all the resources that they need. You will be one of them. And we will be collaborating on with clients, I'm sure. So it was a wonderful conversation and had her join my networking group. We just developed this friendship and worked together to help families with what I did on my end and what she did on her end. And of course, as all happy endings go, one thing led to another, and she asked me to come on board with her.
Mm.
Here it was 2017. She was still this new baby business, if you will. And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to look, but let's give it a try. And here we are, 2024, and still going strong. And this, I have found my thing. This is my forever home with Oasis Senior Advisors.
I love that so much. And there is an evolution as we grow. We realize that we are ready to shift gears and, like you said, try something new. And as someone is listening to this, I just invite you in your own career, your own situation, not just as potentially a family caregiver, because I know there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast, but just as someone who is looking to have maybe more purpose in their work, to explore what that could look like in service to seniors, because it's an industry that is going to keep evolving
Yes. Every day.
every day. Right. And we can create new ways to help people, just as you are experiencing gaps in services that maybe you're finding in your own families. How can you help when you have the bandwidth? Fill
Right.
those gaps with your skill set. So let's talk about what Oasis does and how you help family. Like, what kind of services are you helping them connect with?
Absolutely. We call ourselves kind of a one-stop shop. We have a five-step approach is what we do. So when we are connected with a senior and or their family, we take a look at what's going on in their world at this moment in time. What resource can we connect them with to help them today
Mm,
and tomorrow? So the beautiful part of what we do is that we are a free service to that family from day one to eternity, to that senior as well. We take a look at what's going on. It is, I mean, it might be something where, okay, we've noticed some changes. We are concerned about the future. Maybe we do not have a power of attorney in place. Maybe we do
mm,
not have an estate plan. They need to speak to someone that can help them with this. Well, we have purposefully put together a network of folks who are born here, raised here, work here, play here, that can help them, like elder law attorney. Maybe it is that they just need someone to come into the home and kind of retrofit it, if you will. Maybe they need grab bars. Maybe they need stair lift. Maybe it's something like that. We will connect them with that resource. It's everything from the in-home care, um, physicians, like if they need a geriatrician, whatever that might be, we know who to talk to because we've already done all of the background, the footwork, the homework for
mm,
them. Our big piece is when it's time for, let's say that they're just planning ahead. They're tired of taking care of the house. They want to do independent living. We are in these places all day, every day. We work with communities all across the state of Nebraska, and we can get them pointed in the right direction of what is a fit geographically, what is a fit personality wise. These communities all have different personalities and demographics. What is a fit financially? Most cases, it is where life has taken a turn. We've had a curveball of some kind. It might be a diagnosis, it might be a specific illness or a chronic illness, something progressive in nature, or we might have an injury. Something has sidelined that senior, redirected the trajectory of their life. And now we're looking at assisted living or we're looking at memory care. And so, in addition to connecting folks with all of these other resources out there that are far too overwhelming to navigate on their own, in addition, we are getting them pointed in the right direction when it comes to time for placement as
mm.
well. Yeah. And so that is rich. And that's a tough forest to navigate. There's a lot of trees, and
Right.
we we are able to take them in that five-step approach that I mentioned. We're able to sit down with that family, sit down with that senior, talk about the things that I was just telling you about, that living history across the table. What did you used to do? What do you still enjoy doing? Who are you? Like, who made you who you are today? And we talk about the tough stuff too. What kind of care needs do we have? The financial is a difficult conversation to have, but that's all part of that five-step approach so that, let's say, instead of 35 or 40 options that they have to weed through, we can, in that one conversation, narrow it down to maybe 12 or five um, that they need to consider, look at. We will take them, tour them, introduce them to everyone. That is a lot easier when you have someone in your corner doing all of the footwork, especially if they're doing this in the middle of a crisis. That's a rough period of time. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Well, and emotions are running high, and it's what in my experience, it's usually a decision that someone is not eager to make at any stage of this process. Really looking at that 35,000
Mhm.
foot view of just the aging journey, it
Yeah.
is hard to wrap our heads around that we are getting older. And so
Yeah.
when it comes time to pull through some of those interventions that you can help point them in the right direction to, that can
Yeah.
be a really tough conversation, I
It
imagine.
it is. It is. And I think, and that's the big thing is no one, absolutely no one gets up in the morning and says, okay, when I retire, or gee, what do I want to do with my day? You know, I'm going to go to assisted living. That's what I want to do. Okay. I worked really hard my entire life. I've saved up all this money. I've got my retirement account. And instead of traveling the world, I'm going to go to assisted living. That's what I want to do. That's not the dream, right?
Mm,
That's not the American dream. However, there are so many things in this world we do not have control over. And one of them is those curveballs, right? So, acknowledging that seniors want to plan for themselves, seniors want to plan for their loved ones. They want a plan in place where, should they become incapacitated, there's something to fall back on. That's why we take out life insurance. That's why we pre-plan our funerals. We try to do all of these things so that we don't leave our family holding the bag. But none of that in the majority of the situations that we're stepping in to help with, it just doesn't include assisted living. I have a
mm,
plan for that. It doesn't include memory care. I have a plan for that. We are coming to that table because something has happened and we are in a crisis mode. And the big thing for myself and for my team is, you have got to have the heart for this. You have got to be able to sit down at that table and empathize with them and understand that what they're going through right now at this moment of time, it's not ideal. And your job is to just listen, hear what they have to say, connect with them, sympathize with them, be understanding. A lot of grace is necessary because, like you said, emotions are running pretty high at that time.
absolutely. How often are you finding that the adult children are living out of town versus in the same city trying to figure this stuff out?
Yeah, that one's tough. I would say it is kind of a 60% are still here in the
Mhm.
state, with the majority of that 60% still being close by. The remainder of that, they are all living out of state. And if there's multiples, so we have, let's say they had five children, those five adult children generally don't live in the same state with each other. They are spread across the United States. That is a challenge because they are trying to do all of this over the phone. They're talking to that social worker at the hospital. They're talking
Mhm.
to that discharge planner at the inpatient rehab facility. They're trying to get in touch with the financial advisor or the elder law attorney, and they're doing all of this sight unseen. And chances are, well, not chances are, but they are the sandwich generation. that I'm in,
Mhm.
and they still have kids at home. They're still working full-time jobs. They're not in a position where they can just come back to Nebraska for weeks on end. So that is where myself and my team, we know we have to be able to navigate this for them and take as much of this off their plate as possible, because that is one heck of a challenge when you're on the East Coast and you've got a parent here that has had some sort of a medical emergency or something has happened and you're trying to navigate all this on your own. That's that's rough, really
Yeah,
rough.
no, for sure. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you feel like you come up against um, for families?
It is, there's a few things. One is you're never going to get past the emotional aspect of what this brings up, right? Um, a lot of times, especially in a situation where folks are coming in from out of state, they're not seeing each other every day. We see a surge during the holidays because
Mm,
folks are finally getting back together. They didn't notice the change in mom or dad until they spent some time together. When they're on the phone with each other, mom is saying, everything's fine. It's great. It's wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's not fine. And it's not great. So a lot of times we were running into some denial. It's really hard to accept that the person who raised you, that you've known your entire life, when those roles reverse and you're now parenting your parent, that is a challenge for most of the families that we're helping. And we have to come to the table understanding that. And we have to kind of give them a big hug and just say, we're going to get through this, and this is hard, but it can be a real roadblock if that denial is pretty thick. If it's put down some roots, that's a huge roadblock to get around. So we just a lot of grace and a lot of education. I mean, that's huge, is to educate that family on this is what's going on, and it's hard, and we have to talk about it. Financial is another roadblock.
mhm.
That education comes back into play again. A lot of times I will have a senior that's kind of thinking along the lines of, all right, well, Medicaid will take care of me. I don't really have to have a long-term care plan. I'm never going to need one because I'll have Medicaid step in and help me out. There's a lack of education on how that works and what that eligibility looks like what is not the cost share, all of that. These are things that there's just not an awareness. So education is how we
Mm.
get through those barriers. But those are definitely the top ones, is a lack of understanding what's really going on. Um, Denial is in there because that's just part of the grieving process. I get it, totally. And financial is really hard. Cost of senior care is phenomenal.
Mm.
And there's a thought process that Medicare will pay for it, health insurance will pay for it, and that's not the case with senior care. So
I
those are our biggest obstacles.
I feel like that is a box that Medicare agents need to be checking, that they are really, and maybe they are doing it. I don't know, that they are really educating people that Medicare does not pay for assisted living and long-term nursing home care. I feel like that is a huge misconception people have.
It is, and that's kind of part of when you and I connected and we were talking about that 35,000-foot view. It's all encompassing. I mean, the things that I've already covered here, yes, that's part of it. But part of that view is also this education piece and coming to the table with that family and not assuming that they know all of this behind the scenes intricacies, coming at it with it's our job. It's our job to provide them with that information up front so that no assumptions are made, so that there's no, we don't want surprises in the process. It's rough enough that they're going through what they're going through.
Mm.
So right up front, having that conversation about what Medicare does and does not cover, how Medicaid works, and that it's not accessible everywhere. And where is it accessible? And how is it accessible? Private pay, what does that look like? Breaking down the cost of senior care is another big one too, because there's a sticker shock when we
Mm.
start talking about what that monthly rate looks like. If we break that down, it helps tremendously because for my own parents, they're not taking into consideration the cost of their mortgage, their property tax, their homeowner's insurance, the vehicles that they're maintaining, the cost of just maintaining the home, their groceries, all of those things. And now they're bringing in a yard service and they're bringing in a house cleaner. And I'm just like, time out.
Mhm.
You have access to independent living. And for that almost nearly the same cost, you would have all these benefits and none of that, none of the work, none of the things that have set you back in your health already. So that's big at the table. Like you said, the Medicare piece, coming at this with, dare I say, an assumption that their Medicare specialist probably didn't cover that with them. This is not a conversation that came up at the hospital with the care manager. It's not a conversation that came up at the rehab facility with the discharge planner. So we have to bring that information to the table so that they're not caught off guard. That's the
Well,
best approach.
yeah, yeah. Everybody's in their silo, their area of expertise. And I think that's what's so beautiful about having a senior advisor helping you along the way, because there are things that potentially will come up that
Mhm.
the Medicare people just aren't thinking of in those terms, or the hospital discharge, but like they're in that moment helping you with that specific situation,
Yeah,
not
100%.
looking at the whole big picture.
Yeah, 100%. I work with so many amazing Medicare specialists. I work with so many amazing financial advisors. Our discharge planners at our rehab facilities, our care managers at our hospitals, they are beautiful people and they're highly educated, they're licensed, they're certified, they're very, very good at their job. And that's what they're doing is their job. They're they're looking at, okay, I have a person that's getting ready to discharge. They need to go to rehab from the hospital. I'm going to call the rehab facilities and I'm going to send the notes and I'm going to get them to their next place, the next step, the next phase. That's their job. We're
Mhm.
coming in behind that and saying, okay, your focus is here. I'm not going to duplicate your efforts, but I'm going to add some more to the soup here, right? So that we have a greater rate of success. We don't want that senior to keep coming back to the hospital. And they don't want that either. They don't want them in a revolving door at the emergency department. And I feel like that's where we can help them and help that family as well.
That's
So, yeah.
amazing. What are some of the things that successful families are doing? What are some of the things that you're seeing when someone comes to you? You're just like, oh, yay.
Mhm.
This, you have already checked a lot of the boxes. So, what are some of those things?
Oh my gosh. So there's my folks that I told you about that are like, I don't want to take care of the house anymore. I don't want to mow the lawn. I don't want to scoop the snow. Um, I've been saving. I have my retirement account. And back in the early 90s, when this was a hot commodity that no one knew was going to be so amazingly successful, they took out a long-term care plan, right? And it is the Cadillac of long-term care plans
Mm.
that aren't available to the rest of us anymore. Um, so they're prepared financially. They already have that mindset of, I want a better world for myself. I understand what quality of life means, and I understand that my aging that I have no control over has become a barrier to some things that used to be part of my life. I'm open to doing whatever I need to do to maintain or improve my quality of life. That's that's my perfect senior.
Mhm.
So they've already planned, they've anticipated. The family members, those are the ones who um and when I say this, I don't mean that they had to have had like a perfect relationship with their person. And maybe it isn't a perfect relationship with their person, but they still have remained connected. They've stayed in their business. I air quote that. They've
Mhm.
stayed in their business to the point that when that day comes, that there's a need, they know what life insurance policies they have. They know what sort of investments they have. They know where they bank. They know what accounts they have. They have that, again, that 35,000-foot view. They know everything. They know if there's a mortgage on the house, what's left on that. If there is an estate plan, where are the copies of those documents? Do they have copies of those documents? They are aware if they are the attorney in fact for their parent. So that's huge because heaven forbid when that day comes that life has thrown that curveball, I've got that adult child at that table with me who's like, I know exactly what we're working with financially. I know exactly, where they want to go geographically. I know exactly what sort of things that they would be looking for, especially if we're in a position where they can no longer speak for themselves. And that is a smooth process. I mean, it's a smooth process with us no matter what, because we've already done all that background. But when we have a participating family member that knows their stuff, that's huge. That's huge because then they don't have the delays that it requires when you're trying to get a bank to work with you and get access to what's out there, trying to find documents in a home that we don't know where those documents are located, those types of things. It's life. It's okay.
Mhm.
It just takes extra time. So, yeah.
And you can help people navigate that and figure it out. But we were just really, I mean, our focus there was on how are people preparing and to be the most
Mhm.
successful. So that's really good. I talk about the 5 phases of caregiving,
Mhm.
and there are things that people can be doing in each of the phases. And this is very heavily in phase 3, is where there's clearly been something that has occurred or we're headed down a certain path. Maybe it's dementia or something else. And these are the ducks that they need to have in a row. What are some scenarios that you have experienced? Just those real world scenarios. I think you've shared a couple so far. Are there any other standout stories for boots on the ground? Just what's happening out there for people?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of stories. They're not all happy endings. I I talk about if I had a magic wand. I've mentioned to other people, I I would gladly be out of a job if I could assure that none of these less than happy endings ever happened ever again.
Mm.
That would be how I would use my magic wand. Until that happens, our job, our mission is a better word, is to educate folks to be at that table with them and to talk through some of these difficult things with that mission of avoiding something catastrophic happening. That is not always the case because we are human and we are dealing with human nature. So there are times where maybe we don't have a family that's participating. Maybe we have someone who doesn't have an extended family, and now we need to get a guardianship. Maybe it is a situation where we do have dementia of any form, to be honest, and it's just easier not to deal with it. And because we don't deal with it, we have a very, it can be catastrophic results.
Mm.
Those have been the most difficult cases, just knowing that it could have been avoided, but it's real and it happens. And I do share that with some families in saying, I'm not telling you this true story to scare you. I'm telling you because I feel it's my duty, it's my job to avoid this for you. I do not want this for you. I do not want this for your person. Whatever we can do to have this happy ending, we will move mountains to do it. So I don't know if that was an answer to your question,
Mm.
but those real life stories, we've seen the really amazing happy endings, and I love those the most. We've had some really sad ones as well. So it's just what we take from it in that, what can I do to avoid this happening to another family ever again? That would be perfect. And then the happy endings, those are the ones I love the most. When we're checking on that senior, we're following up with our family, and 9.75 out of 10 times they are saying, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I wait so long? Why did I fight this? Why? Um, I don't have an answer for that. It's because we're human. It's a fear of giving up independence, and acknowledging our mortality is hard too.
Mm.
But just knowing that they are happy and their life is in such a better place, that's the stuff where I'm like, okay, this is why we're here.
Yeah. Keeps the fuel on the fire.
It's a motivator,
It
that's for
is.
sure. It is a
Yeah.
motivator. Yep.
Is there anything else that you would like to share today, or with families who maybe are in this situation where they've started to realize that their family member needs more help? They're watching this aging process unfold, and there's just a lot of uncertainty and concern.
Yeah. Yeah, when you mentioned certainty, it's like, yeah, exactly. I mean, what is certain, and we have to make it lighthearted because it's difficult to talk about. What is certain is that none of us are getting out of this alive. That
Right.
is certain. Okay. So, instead of, bringing down that hammer of, what is certain is death. Well, okay, how about just none of us are getting out of here alive? What is uncertain is how we age. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Um, we don't know if there's going to be a chronic illness. We don't know if it's going to be something that's neurodegenerative. We don't know really any of those things. So being prepared for that which you cannot prepare for, if that makes sense, like trying to be ready for something that anticipate what you can't anticipate. That is where you've got to have someone in your corner. You have to have an advocate. It's tremendous. It's a deal breaker, deal maker, and I feel like that's why we exist. Oasis Senior Advisors, every team, I mean, we have teams across the United States. I can speak for our team here we've got one in Omaha and our team here in Lincoln. We cover the entire state of Nebraska. We are here to be that advocate. And we mean it when we tell you we will be with you every step of the way. We've already seen it all with others. We've already experienced it with our people. So we've not only walked the walk, but we're talking the talk. We will take care of you. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want an advocate in your corner? If it's no cost, which it is, it's a free conversation and it's a lifetime of support from us, no matter what's going on. Because by all means, if you want to stay home, we will do everything we can to set you up for success to stay home. If for some reason that's not an option anymore, we will set you up for success wherever it is that you need to go. So advocacy, having an advocate is that's key. I think that's the answer to it all.
That's great. It's a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I really, really appreciate it. This has been wonderful.